There's a tax that absolutely no one is talking about and you're paying it right now. I call it the self-hate tax and I have been losing money to it for, I want to say, my entire 20s. So in this debut episode of the Financial Hot Girl Show, we are breaking down this tax, figuring out a way that you can actually avoid paying it, and talking about the psychology about why it even exists in the first place. Okay, you guys, we are here with the first episode of the Financial Hot Girl Show. Now, with this show, I'm going to be trialing a couple of different methods of getting this show out, getting it as, getting a good flow and a good narrative for me to get across the message I want to get across, which is that building your self-worth, your confidence, and your self-esteem are all really key parts for you to actually level up financially as well. Like, there is a link between the two, and linking the two also helps you get rid of any shame and guilt and all the kind of resenty kind of feelings we have when it comes to finances and how good we are at doing anything financially related. So for the first episode, we're jumping right into a term I've coined, which is the self-hate tax. Now, I realized I was paying the self-hate tax when let's just take it back. I was 24. I was just dipping my toes into the world of personal finance, and I had a lot of consumer debt at the time. I'd graduated like 3 years before that. Oh my God, 3 years? No, I think I must have been 23. 2 years before that, and I had been a couple years into my grad job. I was on a really, really low salary, and I was in this spiral of like not being able to get out of my overdraft. I never even thought about finances aside from how much I actually avoided it, right? Like, I avoided checking my bank account balance. I took out credit cards, but I never checked the balances. I would just spend on them. I had a problem, right? And in COVID, I started to fix that problem. I tackled my debt, and then tackling my debt led me down the path of investing and building wealth, and literally like all of these pages that you probably found me on. And at the same time, I also was building a lot of better habits in kind of my non-financial life as well, because my world, or like the way I went into personal finance, also meant that I started getting into like self-development, personal development as well. So those two like journeys of mine kind of went parallel to each other. I was improving my finances and also working on myself at the same time. Through me trying to go to the gym, through me trying to become more active, get up earlier, read more, do all of these things that actually just make your life a little bit better, I realized that I was also getting a lot more confidence in like my business and finances as well. And something just clicked for me where I thought, if I can build discipline in my physical fitness, like if I can build confidence in the gym, I can use that as evidence to actually do something with confidence in another area of life. And that's how I realized that I'd spent a lot of my 20s doing the opposite of that. Like I'd spent my 20s getting validation from people outside of myself. Like anything but myself is what I got validation from and feelings of worth from. Therefore, there was no way I had that sense of validation and self-worth myself, which means I did not have the confidence to actually make financial decisions. And that's anything finance related, okay? That's literally like being willing to look at my bank balance and set up a savings account. Like, I did not trust myself to do those things because I needed that trust in the first place from other people. And I think a lot of people can relate to that story. And for me, that light bulb moment was making the link between that validation and where I get it from and how it translated over into my financial life. And I really want to make one thing super clear with this episode. Self-hate tax and paying for validation is not a frivolous spending problem. It's a core problem about the psychological barriers that we have that prevent us from doing the things and making the decisions that will actually build us wealth and get us into better places. Now, this is me just having a little bit of fun with this episode, with this show, right? Because Financial Hot Girl is my little baby, and I have done a huge amount of research on this episode. There's a lot more research I really want to do. Like, I really want to grow this community so big that we can conduct our own research and we can provide we can add some color to the statistics that are out there right now, and we can also maybe improve on them. We can actually make improvements and advancements together, right? But I'm not gonna lie, while I was doing the research for this episode, all my research is here right in front of me, by the way, and if you're watching on YouTube, you might see me looking down to my stats, so that's what I'm doing there. But the stats are not, like, they don't make you feel amazing, especially as a woman. But that is, I feel like as someone who is very exposed, I'm almost like overexposed to these statistics in my creator job, like making financial related content. I am very aware of these things. So I'm a little bit numb to it, but sometimes when I read it all at once, I'm like, it's not looking good. So let's start with the first thing, which is, like I said, the confidence gap. It's not like, in the world of financial education and financial literacy, you might think it's an education problem. And I think that an equal and kind of bigger problem is also the implementation problem. Like, you can give someone as much information as possible, but are they going to act on it? So what we have is an implementation problem. And the core of an implementation problem is confidence in yourself. Like, if you cannot implement something, you likely have an element of self-esteem, self-confidence, self-trust issues there. So it's not just about how much you know, it is about your confidence. And that confidence gap is driving how much we can and can't do with our money, when actually the process for building wealth and getting rich is on paper quite boring and simple. Like, you'll see a lot of financial educators say that getting rich is easy, getting rich is boring. And it is, but too many of us are actually scared to even get to that point. And by scared, I mean lacking confidence in ourselves and our abilities. And the stats, they're, like I said, they're not looking good. Like 48% of UK women rate themselves as not confident in financial matters, compared to only 27% of men. 33% of women see themselves as investors, compared to 42%, but that 33% of women outperform the men by 4%. So it's not, it comes back to the same problem. We can do it. We have the ability, the power, the ambition, the will is there. The confidence to do so is lacking. Now, this confidence gap, it manifests in our lives in three main ways. And these are three ways that, like, they apply to me as well. And it just frustrates me to realize that this is what happened to me. Like, when it's like hindsight's 20/20 vision, right? You look back and you're like, why? Why was that reality for me? The first one is obviously decision paralysis, okay? We all do this because the education itself can seem quite overwhelming, right? But at the core of decision paralysis is a lack of trust in yourself to handle that information, to actually sift through it and maybe organize it and act on little parts of it. Because maybe you don't trust yourself to manage the future of you making that decision and then the consequences and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's some kind of lack of confidence there. And another problem and another way that the confidence gap manifests, and that I think is super common in women, is the delegation problem. And what I mean by this is there are so many women in my life, my age or not, kind of older as well, who, when we talk about finances or money, the conversation will always kind of go to, well, oh, I let my partner handle that because, I don't want to worry about that too much, or I don't really know what's happening, kind of, I just delegate that problem, or I outsource that problem. It's framed like that, when actually these women are like actual beasts at their job or in their careers or in their profession. So they can handle crazy amazing things, but they delegate the financial part. Because again, there's some kind of confidence gap, there's some kind of self-trust gap. And I'm obviously not trying to generalize here, where actually if someone is genuinely outsourcing something that they just don't have time for, great. I love that. But when it's being outsourced because it's kind of like an avoidance coping mechanism, that's where the confidence gap is kind of manifesting itself. And then the third way, which is something that has ruled my life for so long, is playing it small. And playing it small means just being extremely risk averse because you don't trust yourself to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and level up from those mistakes. And I think this is a kind of common thing with women in terms of like the risk adversity or risk averseness. And that holds us back from a lot of things, not just money. And when we think about it, confidence and the confidence gap, it's a annoying, vicious cycle. Because if you think about it, you don't trust yourself to make good financial decisions. So you don't make those good financial decisions. And then you end up in kind of unfavorable financial circumstances, or just money-related things that aren't the best just keep happening because you don't trust yourself. And then it affirms the thought that you already have that you don't trust yourself. And the cycle continues again and again and again and again. And it's not even just, remember, it's not even just a case of avoiding those decisions. You might also be making impulsive or avoidant related decisions to relieve the anxiety that you have that is caused by lack of confidence. And if you think about the actual tax that this actually causes, like how you're paying for this confidence gap and how this self-hate tax itself is manifesting in your life, it is missing out on the 8th magic wonder of the world, apparently, compound interest, because you're missing that compound growth by not taking action on things like investing and building wealth. For example, £100 put away, invested into the stock market, a broad market index fund for 10 years would give you about £17,500, assuming an average 8% annual growth, compared to £12,000 if you just saved that. You're also, by avoiding maybe learning about things or again taking action, you're paying for decisions that you could be making yourself, like through fees or consults or all of these extra costs that come in service-wise when you don't feel confident in yourself and your decisions. And also, what I think is also the worst one, and the one that I have lost a lot of money to this, and I still struggle with this in terms of trying not to lose money with it. It's accepting lower rates or negotiating at a more comfortable level for yourself because you don't see yourself as worthy of something. And when I say this, I feel really conscious because sometimes for me, when I used to hear people say, see yourself as worthy, like you're worthy of this, you're worth this, it used to make me cringe, and it used to make me kind of like opt out of that conversation or that kind of like discourse or that way of speaking. And it's only now, because I've understood my own relationship with self-worth and how I used to get it from other people and how it was so outside of myself, that I can see that like if you actually don't see yourself as worth something, like literally worth something, like if I told you your hourly rate should be £1,000, and if you say back to me like, no, that's ridiculous, why would it be that? You are literally not seeing yourself as worth something, right? And it's when you do that, but at a critically or like materially low level for a long time, you're constantly undercharging or constantly not negotiating or advocating for more in salary negotiation conversations, or even performance review conversations. Like you're not standing up for yourself or pushing things because it doesn't feel comfortable for you to actually advocate for yourself because you don't see yourself as worth that discomfort. That is a form of paying the self-hate tax, because you are losing money from not doing that, and you're losing money from not having those uncomfortable conversations or pushing that rate a little bit higher. And realistically, when you're kind of mentally stuck in this financial reactive mode because you don't see yourself as worthy and because you actually don't have the confidence in yourself to maybe handle things or advocate for yourself, all these things that I've just spoken about, you remain stuck in a kind of reactive mode for like a long time, right? Until you snap out of it, until you have this like light bulb moment. You stay stuck as a reactive person instead of a proactive person, or maybe a more creative person, right? And what this means is that you are economically in the world of yourself, you might be a little less stable. Like if there are crises, if there are ups and downs in your life, you're being more reactive means, again, you might be either avoiding making decisions or making more impulsive decisions to manage that anxiety of yours, rather than having confidence to handle those ups and downs a bit more pragmatically, or a bit more, I don't know, in a better way for your anxiety. And like I said, like I have experienced all of these things. I have done all of these things. I've not advocated for myself. I've avoided decisions. I've made impulsive decisions. I have missed a lot of compound growth. Like, let's not beat around the bush. I started investing when I was 24, 25. I started earning money when I was 16, 17. So I'm not saying we all need to be investing since we were 2. Obviously, that's like the ideal situation, isn't it? We start investing as soon as we're born. However, I spent a lot of time in that kind of like financial avoidance space, paying extra for the self-hate tax versus not. And for me, breaking that cycle, being aware of the self-hate tax came at a point when I was doing that personal like development journey alongside the personal finance journey, right? It's when I was doing them both at the same time, I realized that there was kind of a link between the two financially. And what I've now noticed, like looking back and seeing that I built that confidence and that sense of self-trust, not by doing the financial stuff, because that was harder. Like I was just trying to pay off my debt and try and change the trajectory of my finances. I wasn't really thinking about self-trust and confidence and all these things that I'm talking about in this episode. When I realized that actually the self-trust and confidence that I was building through my fitness journey and like the physical habits and the mental health habits, that those were actually transferable, that's when, for me, like everything changed in terms of I could have made this easier from the start. Or I could have like entered the personal finance world and like getting rich and building wealth, all this stuff, through a sneaky little side door that was a lot more fun to use. Like, let's go to the gym instead of paying off my debt. No, that's not what I mean, but it's kind of what I mean. The key was to build self-efficacy. Now, when I realized, like I discovered self-efficacy through this whole process of trying to understand what my self-hate tax was and how I was paying it. And self-efficacy is essentially, it's your belief in your ability to do something, to succeed in specific situations or complete specific tasks. It's your belief in your ability. It's not your ability, it's your belief. Okay? So some people have crazy self-efficacy, right? They think they can do anything in the world. And you know what? I'm jealous of them because I'm way too self-critical for that. But it's when you have high self-efficacy that financially you're actually better off. And studies show this as well. For example, people with higher financial self-efficacy, so people who have a higher, or people who have a higher belief in their financial skill set or financial capabilities, they have 76% higher emergency savings and are 62% more likely to be on track for retirement. So that is literally a concrete outcome of better self-trust, because remember, again, self-efficacy is your belief in your ability. It's not your actual ability to do something. And belief is easier to build than an actual skill, right? And if you actually think about personal finance and the things you need to learn to be able to build wealth and get rich and get out of debt and build savings and all of these things, the actual skill set is not difficult. So if you can build the belief up and then just, whiz past a skill set, that's it. You're in these like nice little stats. The positive ones, you're in those. So how do we actually build that? In simple terms, you're building up your answer to, do I believe that I can do this in life? Or you know what, let's change that. Do I believe I can do this right now? The answer might not be yes. It wasn't for me when I was 23, 24. So let's build it. And let's actually take a step back for a second, okay? So you probably have high self-efficacy in some area of your life right now. And I really want you to analyze and find a place in your life where you have that self-efficacy. There is something that you believe you're good at. Like if you're listening to this and you're employed, what is it that you're good at? You're being paid to do something. So what is that thing? Because you're good at that, because you're being paid. Okay. At home, what are the things you're good at? And I really want you to think out of the box, because there will be at least one, if not multiple things that you have a high self-efficacy in, even if you don't really want to admit that in public, right? Maybe it's just something that you think you're really good at, but you would never say that you're really good at. Like we all have those things as well. So really take note of what those things are and think about where they are not so high. And for me, it was all about identifying that pattern of self-efficacy, for me, the pattern of my belief in myself started to become more apparent when I realized that I was actually getting stronger in the gym. Because I've been going to the gym for a really long time, but just not consistently. And so therefore, because I was never really consistent, my strength had always been at a very like level state for literally like over a decade. Like there was a weight of lunges and shoulder press and all these things, and on the assisted pull-up machine there was a maximum weight I could do on all of those things. It never went up, yet it also never went like lower. And it's only in the last like year and a half I've made significant improvements on all of those numbers. Like I've gone from not being able to do a pull-up to being able to literally pull my body weight off the ground. And for me, that is a clear improvement of my ability, the actual skill level. And because it's so physical, my self-efficacy has gone up as well. Like I really believe in myself to pull myself up from the ground in the gym. I really believe in my ability to add a few kilos onto my lifts in the next few weeks because I've just done it. So I've kind of created a little bank of evidence to show myself that the self-efficacy can be there. I just need to have it. So that's one way that you can actually just copy and paste that method to try and build self-efficacy as well. Like using physical confidence or physical things, because those are actual things that you can see, you can measure, you can track, progress, record. You can actually prove to yourself in an undeniable way that it exists. And actually, and this is where the financial hot girl stuff really like ties in for me, and I blow my own mind. But I found this stat and I was just taken so aback. People who exercise 3 times weekly are 24% more likely to regularly invest and 31% more likely to feel in control of their finances. So it really shows that there is not only are you building self-efficacy in a different domain, trying to transfer over to finances, but then there's also a link between that discipline and that confidence to your financial ability as well. Like you're actually directly improving your financial ability. So that's kind of a win-win in my opinion. And the second thing you can do is actually micro commit to things. Now I talk about this a lot in my productivity goal setting content because I do love a micro commitment as a previous commitment phobe. But if you build trust with yourself through keeping small promises in like other areas of your life, you are still building self-efficacy because you're still keeping a promise and you're still leveling up, because every time you keep a promise, that's like 1% better. And the lovely thing about this, blows my mind every single time. But it's people who set and achieve small financial goals first are 3.5 times more likely to achieve larger financial goals within 12 months. So not only are you making it easier for yourself to build self-efficacy, but you're actually making it easier for yourself to achieve the end goal anyway. And this is essentially, again, still a transfer of confidence, which again is proven in terms of like a proven psychological way to build up your confidence in one area and just transfer it to another. And actually, when individuals practice decision making in non-financial domains first, financial decision confidence increases by 37%, and super importantly, the follow through increases by 42%. So not only are you actually doing something better one-off financially, but you're more likely to keep going. And that is, I think, the ultimate thing. It's the conclusion that I want you to land on is that, okay, you're not just closing the confidence gap, you are completely changing the trajectory of your life, your finances. The way you think about things is completely changing from here on out. And this is a psychological thing. It's called creating neural pathways, which I first learned about from Mel Robbins. And it's when you're just connecting up like new possibilities in your brain. That's the easiest way to put it because I don't know the scientific terms, but self-trust creates new neural pathways. You then believe newer things, different things are possible for yourself, and it is momentum building. It just makes the next decision after that easier and easier and easier. It's the opposite of that vicious cycle I spoke about earlier in the episode. So how can we build confidence simply and actually just take this into a step-by-step actionable routine at home? We can start with non-financial confidence building routines, which is a great way, again, to just transfer that confidence into a new domain. Have and create a daily physical practice for yourself, because we've already linked the benefit of like the physical habits to financial habits. So it's not like it's a random domain to pick. There's actually a benefit here. Pick something that you want to do for 10 minutes every day and do it for 10 minutes every day. And it can be anything, okay? It does not have to be a run. You don't have to go to the gym. You could just get out of bed and stretch for 10 minutes every morning. The key is to focus on consistency and not intensity. Number 2 would be to track your progress visually with simple metrics. And again, this is a way to build that confidence in yourself, like external to yourself, to try and build that self-efficacy, because this forces the self-trust to build. Like, I would not believe in myself if I couldn't actually see before my eyes that I went from not being able to do a pull-up to doing a pull-up. Like, that is undeniable evidence, right? Like, I physically couldn't do it before. So of course my abilities have increased, which of course increases my self-efficacy in that ability. And then the third thing you can do literally right now, because I really want this to start in a really good way, is to identify one area where you already trust yourself and really think about and embrace what that feels like. Because I think when you're stuck in a state of financial anxiety and stuck in a place of a lack of self-trust, you kind of get used to that feeling. And when you start building self-trust, it's a new feeling, and it can sometimes feel scary to the point where it's uncomfortable because you don't feel it anymore, because you're so used to not trusting yourself, right? So I want you to think about something you do trust yourself with. One of those domains, one of those different areas of your life where maybe you do have a bit of confidence, like a little bit more than maybe you have with money. And just think about what that feels like and try and feel it. Just try and feel it every single day. And we're going to transfer this confidence to finances in, again, micro steps, the micro commitments. We could do things like tracking our spending for 2 weeks. No judgment, just track your spending for 2 weeks. And this is after you do the non-financial confidence building, right? You could also make a tiny investment, focusing on the act of investing, not the outcome. So when I say tiny, like £5-10, think about the act of doing something where the outcome is irrelevant, but it's just the fact that you're doing it that's really important, and it's the feeling of doing it that you need to get used to. The other thing is you can just kind of journal about it and connecting those neural pathways like very actively and consciously in your journal. So talk and journal about the non-financial wins that you have and think about if they are correlating to financial wins, because this is literally what I did. Like, this is the thought process of mine that resulted in this episode, is me thinking, hey, I've built all this self-confidence outside of money and business, but it's resulted in financial and business outcomes. So I made those links because I sat and I reviewed and I sat on it. So I really want you to try and do the same, maybe on a smaller scale. And remember that you will feel like this should be outcome based. Like, oh, there should be a point to all of this. This whole episode, the exercise I'm giving you, it's not about being good with money. It's about trusting yourself regardless of the outcome of doing all these things that I've told you, okay? It's about building that confidence in yourself, that trust with yourself. And just remember, your financial future is not determined by what you know about money, how much you know about money, how much you've even invested. Well, yes, it's how much you've invested, at the core of things. But actually your financial future and whether it even exists, it's determined by what you believe about yourself. And that's what we're trying to get at the root cause of here. So just follow those little confidence building routines and the steps that I've given you in this episode. And remember that it's really not about the spending. It's not about overspending. It's just about the wealth that you're missing out on by paying the self-hate tax in one of the 3 ways that we've outlined in this episode. So thank you for listening to this episode, and I will catch you next week. We are talking all about being broke while being a high earner, because what kind of friggin' messed up world does that exist in, and why? Well, there are psychological barriers preventing you from actually You know what? I'm giving way too much away and I'm just rambling. That's next week's episode. I will see you soon. And remember that money gets easier when you actually back yourself harder. Now, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper, I have a weekly newsletter with all of the tips, all of the insights, articles to upgrade your conversations to be financially hot in the show notes below, where you can join us for free.